Here in America, work is in trouble. We've offshored our manufacturing, sent away good jobs, and lost so much ability to make things. American Giant is a company that's pushing back against this tide. They make high-quality clothing, sweatshirts, jeans, dresses, jackets, and so much more right here in the USA. Visit American-Giant.com and get 20% off your first order when you use code STAPLE20 at checkout. That's 20% off your first order at American-Giant.com. Promo code STAPLE20.
This is VSiN PrimeTime. Live from the Circus Sportsbook in downtown Las Vegas on VSiN, the sports betting network.
Hour number 4 of VSiN Primetime alongside Matt Youmans. I'm Tim Murray. We're live from the Circus Sportsbook in downtown Las Vegas. Light night on the NBA slate and MLB. Only one game still going on in MLB, and it's in a rain delay. Braves and Phillies tied at 1 in the top of the 7th inning. They almost fooled us, Matt. We looked up like, oh, the game's back. No, they were showing a replay of an old Braves game as the Tarps still on the field down there in the ATL. So we'll see if they ultimately get back on the field. A handful of games, finals earlier today, including JVT's beloved Los Angeles Angels, an 11-1 win down at Tampa. So the
2
Angels.
home runs from Mike Trout in that game today. Adam Burke wants to rain on JVT's parade. Adam Burke was on with us in the first hour tonight, and he said, no, Angels are not for real. So, JVT's got, I believe, over 72.5 or 73.5 on an Angels win total bet. But 8-4 are off to a good start there. Long way to go. But if Mike Trout stays healthy, I think he's got a pretty good shot to top that 72.5 or whatever it is.
Yeah, Mike Trout is 4th and 5th home run of the season there as the Angels win 11-1 earlier today. The Guardians take care of the horrendous Chicago White Sox as the White Sox drop to 2-10 on the season. Guardians win that one 6-1. Royals beat the Twins 3-2, and the terrible Rockies got a win, their 3rd win of the season, as they beat the Milwaukee Brewers. They put up a 5 spot in the bottom of the 8th inning. Speaking of Milwaukee, the Bucks about to wrap things up here against the New Orleans Pelicans. They lead that one 117-94. They trailed after the first quarter and quickly erased that deficit as the New Orleans Pelicans are a complete and utter shell of themselves. And Giannis so far tonight, 28-11 in the Bucks' soon-to-be victory, as the Bucks will try to solidify the number 5 spot. The 4 seed has been locked up tonight as Indiana beat the Cleveland Cavaliers as a 10-point favorite. Didn't get the cover, but ultimately got the win 114-112. Another game with Western Conference seeding implications, Matt. Minnesota right now up on the Memphis Grizzlies. That one 35-31. Anthony Edwards, 11 points so far in this first quarter. Ja Morant has 12 points for the Memphis Grizzlies. Grizzlies currently the 6th seed, Minnesota sitting there in the 8th spot.
We were talking about Ja Morant play his scoring prop over tonight, points prop over. He's been on a tear recently. Tim, he's about halfway there after the first quarter with 12 points, like you mentioned.
Yeah, it was funny. Last night we were sitting here and we contemplated, is this Luka Doncic prop? Maybe is it too inflated?
Wow.
He went over it in the first half.
It was not.
30.5. You cashed it in the first half, 31 points in the first half. Lakers 49-31, 2 games left in the regular season. They play the Rockets tomorrow night. With a win over the Rockets, who have already locked up the 2 seed, the Lakers would lock up the 3 seed, meaning they would be on the opposite side of the bracket of the Oklahoma City Thunder. Right now, the Western Conference standings, Denver and LA, the Clippers 48-32. Grizzlies could get to 48-32 with a win today. The Warriors, bad loss last night against the Spurs as they drop down to the 7 spot, so it could be the play-in game. But the Warriors, worth noting, down the stretch here, they get the Trailblazers on the road tomorrow night, Matt.
If you can't beat the Spurs at home, there's no easy games.
No, that is true.
Right?
They were rolling, and now they have dropped 2 of 3. Have the Golden State Warriors at the Trailblazers tomorrow, and then wrap up the season with a big one against the Los Angeles Clippers for seeding purposes. So that'll wrap things up on Sunday.
Monster Friday night in the association. Look at that long list of games. I think that's part of the reason we are preempted on Sirius XM 158 tomorrow night.
That's correct.
Big schedules in the NBA, NHL, MLB. Warriors in Portland. Golden State opens a 12-point favorite on the road tomorrow night. Houston at the Lakers. Rockets must be sitting some players. The Lakers are 9.5-point favorites in that Friday night game in L.A.
Yeah, Rockets nothing to play for. Locked up the 2-seed Lakers. Once again, get the win. They get the 3-seed in the Western Conference playoffs. Will be their 50th win. They've already gone over their win total. End of the first quarter in Memphis, 37-31. So a high-scoring first quarter. Take a look at the live line here for Memphis and Minnesota. Total 240.5, Matt. And Minnesota, as Wes Reynolds gave us a quick thought, he did like the money line on the Minnesota Timberwolves. They are out to a 5.5-point favorite, minus 220 on the money line. And that total, which closed at 229.5 at some shops, is now out to 240.5. So a high-scoring first quarter there between the Grizzlies and the Minnesota Timberwolves.
Tim, I've said many times you're a puckhead, right? You love hockey.
Love the
You
pucks.
love hockey. You love to talk hockey. You love Ovechkin, right?
I do, my guy.
Yeah. Well, he's actually in action tonight. Washington up 4-3 in the third period against Carolina. But we got two games where the puck's about to drop. One here in Vegas, Seattle and the Vegas Golden Knights. We got two big favorites here late night on the hockey card. If you're looking for something to play here, Vegas Golden Knights minus 245 at Circa. That's Knights against the Seattle Kraken. That game is starting in, I believe, 1 minute. And also Anaheim and Los Angeles. You got the Ducks and the Kings. How about the Kings minus 350?
Whew.
I'm seeing a 365. Talk about big favorites tonight on the ice the last two games in the NHL.
Alex Ovechkin breaking the record on Sunday. And, it's funny, Matt. Sometimes, what does Chris Felica say? The best bets you make are I forget. He's got a saying at the end of his podcast. Yeah. Well done, Tim. Good job.
Best bets are the ones you don't make?
Or something like that.
Is that it?
But I was sitting there on Sunday after I wrapped up my show, and Ovechkin scores the record-setting goal. And they stop the game. They do this big ceremony. At that point in time, the Islanders did lead 2-1. And I pulled out my app, and I saw that the price on the Islanders in-game was around minus $2. And I think on the puck line, to win in regulation, essentially, it was around minus 115.
Right.
I'm like, you know what? Islanders are going to win this game. And I was about to fire on the bet, and as my app was, buffering, Islanders scored a goal, and they went on to win. So, and then I was texting with a buddy. He's like, "You had 17 minutes to make that bet. Why the hell did you take so long?" I'm like, "I don't know. I was enjoying the ceremony there on Long Island."
So you're thinking there was after the distraction of the ceremony.
Oh, they were done.
The Capitals had accomplished what they set out to do, and that was it.
Yep,
okay.
And they lost 4-1. Yeah. So sometimes make sure you're a little quicker on the old live app there. So Capitals up 4-3 right now. We do not have a goal from the Great Eight as he is scoreless in this one. What a chump that Alex Ovechkin is. By the way, the Washington Capitals, a team that will be the 1 seed in the Eastern Conference playoffs.
Tell you what, Ovechkin's far from done too. He's gonna put some distance out there in that record by the time he is finished. All right, Tim, let's wrap it up here.
Yep.
Talking about the Masters and the players who did shoot themselves out of it. Right.
Yep.
You can't win the Masters on Thursday, but you can lose it. You can't win it on Thursday, but you can lose it, and these guys lost it. Nick Dunlap, 18 over, 90. Now, if I played Augusta, I'd be pretty happy at 18 over with a 90. Not Nick Dunlap. He is a laughing stock out there. Russell Henley, a popular player with a lot of touts. Russell Henley, 7 over. He was the second worst player on the course. I know a lot of handicappers liked him. Sepp Straka was another hot name this week. 6 over. He is out of it. Matthew Pavone, 6 over. Adam Scott, 6 over. How about Billy Ho? Billy Horschel, 5 over. He's out of it. Tim, I hope you didn't bet any of those players.
I bet Sepp Straka. Had the great Scott Van Pelt on the program on Sunday, and then yesterday we talked to Steve Sands. Saw Matt Brown and some others throw a little Sepp Straka. I said, let's throw a little sprinkle on 75 to 1. Well, it was a good donation.
Right now,
sportsbooks need that money.
Right now, he'd be at 7 million to 1 if you wanted to play that on the adjusted odds.
Does anyone want my 75 to 1? I'll give you a good price on my 75 to 1 ticket.
Tell you some other guys who are out of it right now. How about Wyndham Clark? Had an adventure on the greens today. 4-over, former U.S. Open champ Wyndham Clark is going to be out of it. And Tim, these guys are going to be sweating the cut line on Friday. John Rahm, Tony Finau, Phil Mickelson, Bobby Mack, Robert McIntyre, and Johnny Vegas, Brooks Koepka, Patrick Cantlay, all those guys at 3 or 2 over right now are going to be sweating it to try to make the cut on Friday. Great job by you getting Scott Van Pelt on your, I believe it was your
Sunday show.
Was it the Sunday show?
Yeah, appreciate
him. Watched a clip of that. Who did Van Pelt like at Augusta this week?
He liked Rory. He thought he would get it done. He did like Rory a lot this week, and he said if you wanted that long bomb, Sepp Straka was a guy that he was interested in, man. The Rory pick looked good for a lot of folks, and looks SVP wasn't the only one, right, who thought this would be the week, and 14 holes in, all right, looking good, and then the 15th happened. And then the 17th happened. So we will see what ultimately unfolds with Rory McIlroy. Your leader, of course, Justin Rose, as he is 7 under 65. Cashed that 60 to 1 first-round leader. Westgate Superbook had that. We heard from Wes Reynolds, gave us a couple thoughts on some guys he thought could still be alive. Speaking of maybe someone that you want to back, the Canadian kid, Ian Cameron, he's going to join us in less than 5 minutes. Matt, will he be looking to back his fellow countryman, Corey Connors, who shot a 4 under today. Impressive first round there for Corey Connors. I'm sure our guy Darren Banks is very excited for Corey Connors.
Darren Banks is on the way to the Vegas Golden Knights game.
Hopefully he's already there, sitting behind the glass, taking it all in there. Speaking of which, you can come hang out with Darren Banks and Derek Stevens, because Mr. Stevens has given us a pretty nice deal to tell you about. Use the promo code VSiN15, VSIN15, over at CircaLasVegas.com, and you can get 15% off your stay at the Circa, the D, or Golden Gate. So book now and save when you want to come out to Las Vegas in the near future. The Canadian kid, Ian Cameron, going to help handicap the NBA and NHL for tomorrow next.
This country was built on a distinctly American work ethic, but today, work is in trouble. We've outsourced most of our manufacturing to other countries, and with that, we sent away good jobs and diminished our capability to make things. American Giant is a clothing company that's pushing back against this tide. They make a variety of high-quality clothing and activewear, like sweatshirts, jeans, dresses, jackets, and so much more. All made right here in the USA, from growing the cotton and adding the final touches. So when you buy American Giant, you create jobs for seamsters, cutters, and factory workers in towns and cities across the United States. And it's about more than an income. Jobs bring pride, purpose. They stitch people together. If all that sounds good to you, visit American-Giant.com and get 20% off your first order when you use code STAPLE20 at checkout. That's 20% off your first order at American-Giant.com with promo code STAPLE20.
This is VSiN PrimeTime on VSiN, the sports betting network.
Keep it rolling here on a Thursday evening alongside Matt Youmans. I'm Tim Murray. Minnesota, the Timberwolves lead 53-46 over the Memphis Grizzlies in an important game for Western Conference standings out there, as Ja Morant gets a bucket for the Memphis Grizzlies. So 53-48 is the score. Quick look at the live line before we head to our progressive guest line. Right now, the T-Wolves a 4.5-point favorite. They closed around a 2.5-point favorite against the Memphis Grizzlies. The Milwaukee Bucks putting the finishing touches on the New Orleans Pelicans, 134-108, as they inch closer to grabbing the 5 seed in the Eastern Conference playoffs. The 4 seed locked up officially from the Indiana Pacers as they get a win earlier tonight over a shorthanded Cleveland Cavaliers team. All right, let's head to our progressive guest line and welcome in Our guy, Ian Cameron, the Canadian kid, who joins us courtesy of our progressive guest line. I know you're an NBA and NHL guy, but I got to ask you real quickly, are you just going to blindly back your guy, Corey Connors, your fellow countryman over in the Masters? 18-1, I believe, is his current number at DraftKings to win the Masters.
Well, he certainly had a great first round, very encouraging start for him. And the one thing about Corey Connors is the putter is key for him. He can roll in putts, and when he's got it rolling on the green, he can be really dangerous. And that's going to be the key for him, I think, in these next 3 days. But if you look at it, he avoided trouble in a lot of holes today, found the fairway quite often, just played a really solid, steady round. And again, the guy still doesn't have a ton of experience playing Augusta compared to a lot of the other players in the tournament. So to get off to that kind of start is great. I think we're at the point, guys, where we got to start just blindly maybe betting every single year Justin Rose to be the leader in the first round. I mean, he's just been absolutely spectacular at getting off to these great starts in the first 18 holes. And here he is again, 5 times now, a first-round leader after the opening round at Augusta. So more great beginnings for Justin Rose. But the bugaboo is still waiting to get that elusive green jacket. Let's see if he can have a strong weekend.
Yeah, hopefully he'll be the leader after the fourth round, not just the first round. But let's talk hockey now with the Canadian kid, Ian Cameron. And, Ian, we got the last 2 games underway here on the West Coast, Seattle and Vegas, and Anaheim Ducks, LA Kings. The Kings minus 352 here at Circa, and they've already scored 2 minutes into the game tonight. What are you looking for here down the stretch in the NHL season as we get ready for the postseason?
Yeah, well, what we're looking for, Matt, is certainly motivations first and foremost. You got to check lineups, who's in and who's out. Obviously, where teams are at in the standings is important. A couple of late regular season rules that I go by. Teams that are out of the playoffs, there's very little defensive intensity. Players on either of those teams, when the 2 non-playoff teams are playing each other, no one's going above and beyond to block shots. Sometimes the effort as far as back checking and forwards coming back in the D zone to help out their defensemen, you just don't see that as much. There's just not that extra effort. Playing defense is effort. Whether it's football, basketball, hockey, it's effort to play defense. And when you're out of the playoffs, you don't see that extra effort defensively. So in a lot of those games, you're going to see higher scoring games. Look at Chicago-Boston, for example, tonight in the NHL. 2 non-playoff teams, the game went over the total. So they'll definitely target overs as far as totals for teams out of the playoffs facing each other this late into the season. And another good angle to keep an eye on for live betting purposes is these games that have been scoreless after the first period, so 0-0 after the opening period. Target a second period live over 1.5 in the second period. The cash rate has been just remarkable on these bets, where you get 2 goals in the second period after a scoreless first. Things open up. I think it's on something like a 25-8 run coming into tonight, taking the second period over after a scoreless first period. Definitely an angle to keep an eye on moving forward.
Before we pivot to the NBA with Ian Cameron, who joins us courtesy of our progressive guest line, pretty light slate tomorrow, 5 games on the ice tomorrow. When you look at the card initially, Ian, any games jumping out to you for tomorrow night in the NHL?
Tim, it's a great segue to another late season NHL angle of mine. Meaningful games between 2 teams that need something out of the game. We're going to see that tomorrow night with 2 games, Montreal, Ottawa, Minnesota, Calgary. It would not surprise me if one or both of those games go to overtime. They're going to be pretty competitive. Montreal needs 1 point and 1 point only to clinch a playoff spot. Every point for Ottawa. Ottawa's already clinched a playoff spot, but still positioning is on the line for them. There's still an outside chance they catch Florida, and they do have to keep an eye on Montreal, the team they're playing tomorrow night, who only trail them by a few points. So that's a good, what I call, draw candidate. And you can get these draw bets, these games to go to overtime, most cases plus 300 or better is the price with those. So I think Montreal-Ottawa could be a good draw candidate at plus money. Same thing goes with Minnesota-Calgary. Every point for Minnesota is huge because they are closing in on the second wild card in the West. So I could see one or both of those games maybe going to overtime. And then as far as Pittsburgh and New Jersey is concerned, That could be an over game, the Penguins and the Devils. New Jersey is a playoff team, but they've clinched their spot. They already know that they're going to play the Carolina Hurricanes in the first round. And meanwhile, the Pittsburgh Penguins, they're definitely more known for offense than defense this year. Their offense has been carried by their top line, led by Sidney Crosby, Ricard Raquel, and Brian Rust. They've been playing very well, and they're certainly better at that end of the ice than they are defensively. So with that total being 5.5 with Pittsburgh and New Jersey, it wouldn't shock me to see some goals in that game. Like I said, the Penguins are out of the playoffs. They haven't been a good defensive team all year. New Jersey is going to the playoffs, but absolutely nothing is on the line or at stake for them in that game tomorrow night. So I could see a loose atmosphere.
Ian Cameron, pro handicapper out of Canada with us. Big Friday night in the association. Anything, I guess, on your radar for the NBA?
Yeah, the NBA is definitely at this time of year. You've got to check lineups. Certainly who needs, to improve their playoff positioning moving forward and who doesn't. That's something to keep an eye on as well when you look at the NBA and night to night. That's so important. I think when you look at the card for tomorrow and you look at some of these, I'm always interested in trying to go against Boston when they're laying this kind of a big number. It's just difficult to do that with these really bad teams. I remember taking Washington, took a shot with the Wizards. It was one of the biggest point spreads all year in the NBA, 20.5? And Washington was that bad, that they didn't cover. They got absolutely blown out. You worry about that with Charlotte. We just saw Charlotte get whipped by Toronto the other night, although it was the Raptors' home finale, and I think there was some incentive for the Raptors to have a strong game there, their final home game. But boy, oh boy, 20 is a lot for Boston when they're probably looking forward to the playoffs right now at this point in time. I like the over with Washington and Chicago. There's another perfect example. Bulls have been a team kind of lacking defense, and they've really upped the pace this year. They've been consistently top 5 in the NBA pace-wise for Billy Donovan this year. I just don't know if we're going to see a ton of defense in that game. So be a little bit interested there in an over in that Washington and Chicago game. So that's something I'd be maybe looking at. I think the Phoenix Suns are just a train wreck. And I know San Antonio is the team they're playing tomorrow night. It's not much better with them lately. But when I see the Phoenix Suns favored, again, we're going to have to wait to see, guys, what the lineups are tomorrow night in that game. But Phoenix is just absolutely face-planted. There's been no desire, no want to on the defensive end of the basketball court from that team for several games now. And whether it's fading Phoenix or taking the opponent team total over, it's been a pretty go-to staple for me down the stretch. Again, now we got to talk about a San Antonio team that's not bringing a lot to the table either. But when I see Phoenix favored, you guys, I'm at least inclined to give a lean to San Antonio and look into maybe doing something with taking the Spurs on Friday night.
All right, final 90 seconds here. We have talked NHL and NBA with Ian Cameron, the Canadian kid. How about the UFL, the hottest league in the world? Everyone's talking about this. Everyone's watching it, the United Football League. A lot of low-scoring games. I know you're handicapping this and betting it. Tell us your approach to the UFL and how you will look ahead to this week's action.
Yeah, the UFL, it's not exactly been scintillating football to begin the season. At this point in time, it's been a lot of plodding offense. There's been, I find that just the dynamic playmaking is just not there at the wide receiver spot, especially, and you're seeing some quarterbacks misfire, and it's just been a lot of issues. And offensive line play in some cases has been absolutely awful. I mean, I remember seeing Birmingham in their opener. Now, they did fix it a little bit last week, but they allowed Alex Magoo, their quarterback, to get sacked 7 times. So that's not exactly going to be conducive to good offense. So right now, unders have been the way to go. But as with every league, and even the CFL, this happens. Slow starts, defenses rule early. Sometimes 3rd, 4th, 5th week into the season, the offenses start to get going. So there's going to be a pendulum swing at some point. There will be value with overs. It's just how quickly does that happen? And how quickly do these offenses get up to speed? I'll give you one side that I like for UFL. Saturday, I'm going to lay the points with the Memphis Showboats over the Houston Roughnecks. Houston Roughnecks, easily the worst team in this league. I know they covered but barely last week against Arlington. I'm still looking to fade this team. They are absolutely awful. I like Memphis in that game.
He's Ian Cameron. Always great to catch up with the Canadian kid. Thanks, Ian.
Good to be with you guys. We'll talk next week.
Get you updated on what's going on in the NBA, as well as a look at Todd McShay's latest mock draft.
This is VSiN PrimeTime on VSiN, the sports betting network.
It is VSiN PrimeTime here on a Thursday evening. You can always catch us on SiriusXM, channel 158. Also, the VSiN Watch app, vsin.com/listen. That's Matt Youmans. I'm Tim Murray. Fun one going on in Memphis, 63-61 the score between the Grizzlies and the Minnesota Timberwolves. After the first quarter, it was a strong lead for the Minnesota Timberwolves, but as we often see in the NBA, you could have took 5.5, and right now the Memphis Grizzlies have regained the lead as they trail by 6 after the first quarter, but so far to this point have outscored the Minnesota Timberwolves by 10 in that second quarter. Ja Morant in this contest already with 17 points. Anthony Edwards with 25 points. So the stars are shining in Memphis tonight. Desmond Bane leading the way for the Grizzlies with 19. So impressive game so far unfolding down there in Memphis. Winners already tonight. Milwaukee wins by 25 over New Orleans. The Pacers lock up the 4 seed in the East with a 114-112 win over the Cleveland Cavaliers. And the Hawks obliterate the Brooklyn Nets by a final of 133-109. The Eastern Conference standings, the Atlanta Hawks trying to secure the 8th spot, which would mean they would head to Orlando for the play-in tournament. The Bulls right now in the 9 spot, and the Heat in the 10 spot for that play-in tournament.
Cannot wait to find out who gets the last spots in the Eastern Conference playoffs. It's going to be fascinating.
I know you're riveted by how that is going to unfold. We'll get some more thoughts on the Masters before we bid farewell here for the evening. But we've talked about it once. Let's revisit it as Todd McShay has put out a latest mock draft. He also put out a tweet, interestingly enough. He's kind of leaning into, Matt, the gambling aspect of the NFL draft. His podcast is sponsored by FanDuel. So he's thrown out some interesting thoughts, including one where he believed that Matthew Golden of Texas, would be drafted ahead of Tet McMillan. However, I guess over the last week he has changed his mind because he has Tet McMillan going 12 to the Dallas Cowboys and Matthew Golden going 16 to the Arizona Cardinals.
A week ago, I expressed some skepticism that Golden was going to go ahead of McMillan. I think McMillan is officially going to be the first wide receiver off the board because you're not calling Travis Hunter a wide receiver necessarily, right? He's listed as a corner.
Yes. In most of the betting markets, he is listed as a corner. I believe at the NFL Combine, he went officially down as a defensive back. So I wanted to hit on this, though, real quickly. So we have the tweet from Todd McShay. It was a lengthy tweet, so we'll run through it here if you're watching with us, but I'll read it with you. He said, who knew the FanDuel Draft Sportsbook app would be so helpful in preparing for the draft? It actually has been. While I was looking up a couple of things yesterday for the mock, these, quote, opportunities caught my attention. Number 3 overall pick, Abdul Carter, minus 200 in parentheses. That number isn't getting any better. So he believes that Abdul Carter at minus $2 is a bit of a... And it is worth noting, Matt, sometimes in NFL draft betting, you got to lay a price. And Abdul Carter at minus $2 to go number 3 overall. That was yesterday. I'll get you adjusted odds here in just a moment. Eagles first round pick to be a tight end, plus 950. He says Goddard's situation and Mason Taylor should be sitting there, worth a long shot. And then he also said Steelers to pick a running back with their first pick at plus $7. Quote, just think about the offense with Hampton or Henderson, Travion Henderson or Murray and Hampton. Again, as Todd McShay states, worth a flyer.
The Steelers just drafted a running back 4 years ago in a similar spot, Najee Harris, right? And they're going to let him go and then draft another one. I'm not sure that'd be a wise move by the Steelers. This is a draft that's pretty deep in running backs, and I think you can get those guys 3rd, 4th round. You don't have to do it in the 1st round. I got a shocking prediction for you here from Tony Gordon, former Circa Millions champion. Okay. He's been in the Circa Friday Football Invitational with us the last couple of years. Follow him on Twitter @Derbify. Are you ready for this, Tim?
I'm ready.
Are you sure you're ready?
I don't know.
How about my prediction? This is Tony Gordon tweeting. My prediction, Jalen Milroe, quarterback from Alabama, number 3 pick to the Giants.
Oh.
Well, how about that? That's an off-the-wall prediction. Tony says he and Malik Neighbors are friends and would be perfect fit to take over in the next year or two. Milroe ran the fourth fastest 40 time for a quarterback ever at the Combine, 4.4. Knowing both Russell Wilson and Jameis Winston are on hole 17 or 18 of the back nine, thinking that Brian Daboll and the Giants use their leadership to mentor a young quarterback, wager on Jalen Milroe to be the second quarterback picked in the draft at 80-1 odds. He made that bet a couple days ago, and he said he was limited to small beans on that bet, but he's still got to want. Now that price is down to 8-1. And anyway, Jalen Milroe to the Giants at number 3. Tony Gordon's shocking prediction. That would stun a lot of people, Tim.
I think
it would stun a lot of people if Jalen Milroe went in the top 15 of the first round, not just number 3 to the Giants.
I think my jaw would be on this desk if Jalen Milroe goes number 3. By the way, if you do want to take that flyer that Tony Gordon is throwing out there, Jalen Milroe at DraftKings to be the number 3 overall pick, 120-1.
Yeah.
So it is worth looking. And Jalen Milroe, as you alluded to, and that's the thing, too, with these draft markets. They are so quick to move with any sense of information out there. Jalen Milroe, now second quarterback selected at 10-1. By the way, worth noting this market here as we go back to this Todd McShay mock draft, as he has Jackson Dart going number 9 to the New Orleans Saints, and he's not the only one. But if you think Jackson Dart could be the second quarterback selected, Matt, plus 370 right now at DraftKings.
It might be worth a shot. I think there's a chance Jackson Dart goes, not only as the second quarterback, but maybe to the Saints with that number 9 pick. Very good stuff tonight with Mike Sanford in studio with us talking about the quarterbacks. Tim, you've got opinions all over the board on the quarterbacks, from Cam Ward to Shedeur Sanders to Jackson Dart, Jalen Milroe. Quinn Ewers is going to be a hot topic when we get there. I think some of these teams like the Browns might be looking to draft a quarterback in the second round, don't you think?
Yeah, I think so.
You can get value in the second round with some of these quarterbacks. I think a team like the Browns would probably love to get Jackson Dart or maybe, who knows, maybe even Milroe, Quinn Ewers as a second-round pick.
By the way, I'm looking it up right now, and I was looking up to see. So Hayden Winks from Underdog Fantasy, he and Josh Norris do a really good job. Josh Norris a couple of years ago had one of the best mock drafts of all time. It was unbelievable. So Hayden Winks, he also has Jackson Dart going 9th to the New Orleans Saints in his most recent mock, and he has Shedeur Sanders dropping out of the first round. So over the next 2 weeks, it's got to be very interesting.
He does not have Jalen Milroe in the first round, only 2 quarterbacks?
Let me see. Milroe, he has – Hayden Winks has Milroe going not in the first round, so he would have 2 going in, which would be a nice cash.
Now, what's the price now? 2.5 quarterbacks over the didn't we say tonight minus 350 over 2.5?
Hold on, let me get those for you.
I was right in that minus 350 range, so you're not going to want to lay that price. I think that's a little bit too risky.
Plus 245 to the under, minus 340 to the over on quarterback selected as we have the draft props over here. So
that's DraftKings?
That is DraftKings, yeah. And I don't know. I know JVT, and I'm sure he'll probably convince me to bet the under at some point here. Take a little bit of a stab at it. Look, I had under, and he's I think he's 6-2 to the under. I can't remember his exact number, but last year obviously the over hit. So if you were sitting there with the over, that did come home a year ago, but. Yeah. Anything else from the Todd McShay?
Let's look at Todd McShay's mock draft one more time because, his first 3 picks I think are hard to argue with. Yep. Cam Ward, Travis Hunter, Abdul Carter. After that, starts to get interesting. I don't love Ashton Genty to the Raiders at number 6, even though it looks like that's the way that franchise is pointing. How about, and he's got Jackson Dart to the Saints at 9. Tyler Warren, tight end from Penn State to the Bears at number 10. Interesting pick there. If the Bears make it, I could see that happening with Ben Johnson as coach, trying to get a weapon like that for Caleb Williams. So I kind of like the Tyler Warren tight end pick for the Bears. Colston Loveland's a tight end who's getting a lot of respect, too, in this draft. Out of Michigan, Loveland to the Colts at number 14. So, we can see 2 tight ends in the top 15 of this draft.
Yeah, there's no doubt. I mean, we've had years where no tight end in the first round. I remember the discussion a couple years ago. There was like really good cash on Dalton Kincaid to be the first tight end selected. Seems like Tyler Warren, if you look at first tight end selected, minus 950 for Tyler Warren. There's not a lot of intrigue out there.
Can't lay that price, though, because there's a chance Colston Loveland could go ahead of Warren.
Ted McMillan, by the way, now out to a minus $3 favorite to be the first wide receiver selected over Matthew Golden. Hey, just a reminder, folks, we've got our VSiN summer special going on right now. You get everything we have to offer over at VSiN.com all the way through August 1st for just $59. Head on over to VSiN.com/subscribe.
This is VSiN Primetime on VSiN, the sports betting network.
Putting a bow on the show, it is VSiN Primetime alongside Matt Youmans. I'm Tim Murray. The Masters gets going tomorrow morning, round 2 of the Masters, that is. We've got some adjusted odds. Matt, you're going to have an article up later tonight on VSiN.com or in the newsletter.
Yeah, I wouldn't call it an article. It's just Kelly Bidlin, Wes Reynolds, Matt Brown, myself. We write, 2 or 3 graphs, whatever. Kind of recapping the betting and looking forward to making some recommendations in the next round and what you might want to bet this weekend. So that's up there at vsin.com. Check that out. I know Wes Reynolds and Kelly Bidlin were the first ones to file their reports, and I tried to write something here while we were on the show tonight. I kind of like Corey Connors moving forward.
Yep.
I think Bryson DeChambeau is going to stay there too. Corey Connors 18-1 at DraftKings, plus 1250 here at Circus. A big difference. Get the DK number on Corey Connors. And also DeChambeau, I didn't think he played great today. And the fact that he's still hanging right around there at the top of the leaderboard, let's see, he is 3 under. DeChambeau today shot a 3 under, tied with Terrell Hatton for 5th. And I felt like, he was that close to being 5 or 6 under. That's why I think DeChambeau's got a pretty good shot to stick around for the weekend with Scotty Scheffler, Ludwig Oberg. Those 2 guys are not going anywhere. I don't have a bet on Oberg, and I'm not sure if I want to play him. Jeff Seeley, who's probably the biggest proponent of Ludwig, said last week, he's a mess. Don't play him, and so I didn't. I didn't play him in the Masters, and he went out today and he played great. So I don't know, maybe that's a guy you could look playing too is Oberg, who I know a lot of people love to bet the guy, and I've heard his name pronounced 23 different ways, and I think I've pronounced it 17 different ways, Tim. So maybe twice. I just pronounced it 2 different ways there in that sentence. So Ludwig, Corey Connors, Bryson DeChambeau, 3 guys I think are going to be hanging around right there with Scotty Scheffler for the whole weekend.
So I have given ownership over to Chuck Esposito of Stations Casino. I pulled up the Stations app, and I will give you comparable odds. But Corey Connors to finish top 10, minus 105 at DraftKings, even money at Stations. Would you be interested in Corey Connors, top 10?
I would. I see he's top 5 plus 230.
What would you prefer?
Let's take the even money. Let's take the even money on Corey Connors' top 10.
All right. I'm going to add to my portfolio of bets that I'm guaranteed to lose. I'm looking forward to all of those there. Speaking of which, our best bets is always brought to you by our friends over at G-Bank, the official bank of VSiN. Let's go ahead and throw a little Corey Connors even money in there to finish top 10. Also, you heard from Wes Reynolds earlier in the show. Akshay Bhatia, plus 550 if you think he's going to finish in the top 5 out there. G-Bank is upping the ante, Matt, with up to a $750 bonus for new G-Bank Visa Signature Card customers. First, new customers who spend $1,000 on eligible purchases within 90 days from account opening receive a $250 bonus. In addition, if you spend $50,000 on gaming and sports app loads within the 30 days of account opening, you'll receive another $500 bonus. That's potentially a $750 bonus. Apply now, vsin.com/gbank. That's VSIN.com/gbank. Subject to credit approval. Terms and conditions do apply. So I have gone ahead and thrown in a couple bets here for tomorrow. J.J. Spawn plus 105 over Justin Rose tomorrow in a second-round matchup. Akshay Bhatia top 5 at plus 550. And I'm going to go ahead and side with the Canadian. Even money to finish in the top 10. Speaking of finishes, Matt, Paul Stone. Salute to him, sir. Heck of a performance from Paul Stone in the third edition of the Circa College Hoops Challenge. He is our champion, joining the likes of Will Hill and David Dineen.
That's right. Will Hill won the first one, 2023. David Dineen in 24. And now Paul Stone in 2025, 30, 19, and 1 against the spread. Very, very similar performance to what David Dineen did the year before when he won the Circa College Hoops Challenge. Paul Stone gets his choice of a Stadium Swim Cabana with a $1,000 credit or a Barry's comp worth $1,000. What do you think Paul Stone's going to take? JVT says he sees Paul as a pool guy. He thinks he's going to take a Stadium Swim.
I'm going to go ahead and lay the chalk that he's going to be at Barry's. You see him and his bride down there. Maybe he'll invite some of us. I don't know, but I think it's a pretty safe bet that Paul Stone will be riding with the Barry's gift card.
Well, we know what Tim Murray's going to get. You won the tiebreaker over Aaron Moore for second place. You and Aaron both finished with 30.5 points, 4 points behind Paul. You were 27, 22, and 1 against the spread. Aaron Moore, 26, 21, and 3. So the first tiebreaker was your final 4 picks and your national champ. You and Aaron Moore tied on that. The second tiebreaker was best bet record. You and Aaron Moore each went 6 and 4 on your best bets. The third tiebreaker was most winning plays in the contest. And you had 27 and he had 26. You get the $200 gift card to Dom DeMarco's Pizzeria and Bar. And Tim, I have the gift card for you. Thanks to Al Scalliott for sponsoring this contest, as well as the Circa Friday Football Invitational. And Wes Reynolds and I were out at Dom DeMarco's on Wednesday afternoon to talk college hoops and Masters, and I picked up your gift card. So I give it to you. Good news for you. You get that gift card tonight after the show. The rest of, let's say, the top 10 in the Circa College Hoops Challenge behind Paul Stone, Tim Murray, and Aaron Moore. We had Ken Thompson. Nice charge by KT during the NCAA tournament. Jonathan Von Tobel, Will Hill, me, David Dineen, Ron Boyles, Chris Massero, I believe rounds out your top 10. Is that right?
Yeah, Ken Thompson, by the way, you mentioned it. What a run in the NCAA tournament. Ken went 28-2 in the NCAA tournament, and he tweeted me and he said, "I'll take 28-2 in the big dance after the 7-13 regular season. Hashtag pathetic." So he was none too pleased with his NCAA tournament, or excuse me, his regular season, but hell of a run in the NCAA tournament. And JVT.
Got bad news for Tim Murray.
Uh-oh.
Chris Massero texts in, says Paul Stone told him he's taking the Cabana. I don't know if he said this or he said it on Follow the Money. Paul said he's taking the Cabana, and we're all invited. And Chris adds, "Not to Chuck. Sorry, Tim. Ha ha."
Nice.
There you go.
Very good. Hey, Chris, while you're listening, your Dodgers run lines went really well in D.C. Just want to point that out there. 72-67, by the way, as they start the second half in Memphis, the Grizzlies with a 5-point lead. Yeah, that's surprising. Paul Stone, the underdog coming home. I would have thought Barry's would have been the play, but Paul, a man of the people.
JVT called it. He said Paul Stone is a pool guy. So Stadium Swim Cabana, looking forward to that this summer. Let's pick maybe the hottest day of the summer.
Ooh, that'd be nice. Get out there, get in the pool, hang out, and get some beers on Paul there with that $1,000 of credit to Stadium Swim. And before we know it, Matt, are we going to be breaking some news? Are we going to have the fourth go-round of the Circa football contest here, hopefully this fall? People love the contest, so hopefully it is back this upcoming fall.
I'll tell you what we have coming soon is going to be an announcement, I believe, from the Westgate Superbook about a new college football handicap contest.
I heard about this.
So looking forward to this. Hopefully we can talk about that within the next week or two. I know a lot of people are fired up about that. It's something we've been asking for a long time. All right, Tim, let's wrap up the show. We're both hungry, headed out to dinner. Before we do that, how about an update from the NBA? The Memphis Grizzlies up 5 early in the third quarter on Minnesota.
Yes, indeed. Live line right now, Grizzlies -1.5. They went off as a short home dog. The Memphis Grizzlies and the Minnesota Timberwolves trying to jockey for position in the crowded Western Conference standings there, as entering today, Memphis was the 6th seed and the Minnesota Timberwolves were the 8th seed. With a win tonight, Memphis would slide into a 3-way tie for 4th. Not sure what the tiebreakers are, to be honest, right now, but Denver and the Clippers all at 48 and 32. Memphis right now 47 and 32. The Minnesota Timberwolves at this point in time the 8th seed in the West. So a busy day tomorrow, and Matt and JVT will be on the airwaves looking to break that down for the NBA card. I'll give you this quick update, Matt. If you're hoping for late night baseball, here you go. 11:30 p.m. Eastern time resumption of the Phillies and Braves. So we can listen to that, watch that as the evening goes on. That game tied at 1 in the 7th inning, and they have been in a rain delay here for a couple of hours, Matt.
Nothing wrong with late night baseball from Atlanta, Phillies and Braves. I look forward to that. Tim, you've got shows this weekend. You always do. Saturday morning, Sunday morning. We're going to be talking a lot of Masters this week. No more college hoops to talk about.
No more college hoops. It's been the College Hoops Challenge was a gift for me on Saturday and Sunday. So Saturday, Sunday, 10 a.m. That's when I'll be back. Matt will be back tomorrow night at 7 p.m. Eastern with Jonathan Von Tobel. So plenty of great content, including Joltin' Joe Serralo. He's coming up next to continue the coverage here on VSiN. For Matt, I'm Tim. This has been VSiN Primetime.